Well, guess what? The Justice Department announcing a sweeping indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center, one of the liberal media's favorite so-called sources. Watch.
A grand jury returned an 11-count indictment charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. The SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
The Justice Department announcing the Southern Poverty Law Center funneled millions to white supremacist and extremist groups like the KKK.
Between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations-affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front. Now, as the indictment lays out, after SPLC paid members of these extremist groups, it created work product that reported on these activities that the members participated in or contributed to.
And if that wasn't disturbing enough, they said some of that money was connected to the 2017 Unite the Right protests in Charlottesville, Virginia. Watch.
One troubling example is that the SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of 1 person and injured dozens more. This particular person being paid by the SPLC allegedly received approximately $270,000 over the course of 8 years.
Welcome to the show, Fox News legal editor Kerri Urbahn. Kerri, let's start with that 2017 so-called Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, which kind of gets to the heart of what the government claims they were up to. Explain.
Yes, DOJ alleges that the SPLC was paying someone to help organize that rally. This person was even involved in transportation of people and the like. And I think, David, one thing that we found in our own research this morning at Fox News is, well, we pulled the SPLC financials from before the rally and after the rally. Their revenue and their assets and their public support tripled. It went somewhere from 50 million to 150 million from before and after the rally. And why did that happen? Of course, because they, decried the rally, said, look what's happening, give us money and we'll stop this. And now we find out, according to DOJ, they were actually paying someone to help organize that rally.
But why? I mean, they claim that it was because of the fact that they were protecting their own members, that they wanted to know what these radical groups were doing. Was it that, or was it because they wanted to spur on these protests in order to get more business?
Yeah, well, either way, they, again, according to the indictment, committed crimes in the process. There's no carve-out for SPLC, irrespective of what their motive is or what their defense may be. For instance, they lied, allegedly, to banks. What they did was they created fake companies that had all kinds of titles that would have obviously had nothing to do with their work, like Fox Photography, an ink company, and that's how they paid these people so that it wouldn't be traced at these organizations, and that's bank fraud. Another thing that the indictment alleges is they lied to their donors, and that's where the wire fraud piece comes in. And then, of course, there's the money laundering charge, because they had all of these accounts, they were shuffling money around, they really wanted to make sure that nobody found out about this. And David, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, Donald Trump ran on ending illegal immigration. What if it was revealed that, in fact, he and his campaign were paying migrants to illegally cross the border and, you know, maybe
Right.
commit a crime or two
Right.
somewhere. Right? And then they would send out a fundraising letter every time this migrant did something bad or one of these people and said, look at this, see, I can stop it. I think people probably would be upset about that. And so, you know, at a minimum, this is a tremendous reputational blow to SPLC. But frankly, they had it coming, given how they have gone after conservative Christians for so many
Yes.
years, putting people who defend traditional values and education on hate maps,
Right.
maps that inspired would-be terrorists. And,
Well, in
you
fact,
know,
there's
it's
an
really
example.
tragic.
Kerri, forgive me, but there's an example of that. There's an example of an assassin who claims he was motivated to do what he did because of these hate maps that they put out. They claim that they did this to protect their people. But meanwhile, they were putting out these hate maps that were putting other people, conservatives in particular, at risk.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. This is what happened in Washington, D.C. A would-be terrorist said he was inspired by the hate map. He went to Family Research Council, a think tank that defends conservative Christian values, and thankfully was stopped. But he ended up pleading guilty to a terrorism charge because of SPLC. And then what do we find out? Just a year or two later, they're apparently paying these people inside these organizations to continue to stoke hate. So it'll be interesting to see, David, what happens here. This is just the beginning, I think.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness for your work. Thank goodness that the Justice Department is taking it seriously. And thank goodness for the grand jury for bringing these indictments. Kerri Urbahn, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now listen to this.